Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. Xbox decided to reveal a ton of new games today with a new Idea Xbox showcase where they showed and talked a lot about more than 60 different games, several of which will be in Xbox Game Pass. Seriously, Xbox Game Pass is absolutely amazing, and they just revealed 20 new games coming to it day one. Yeah, you gotta love it, but it was actually an absurdly long showcase. Probably way too long. Yes, there was some really cool games here though, and we're going to take a look at some of the more interesting games that was revealed today. Also, the legendary Hideo Kojima looks to be planning a big reveal here soon, and we're going to talk about that later on in the video. With that said, we got a lot to talk about, and unlike the Xbox showcase, I respect your time and I'll try to deliver all the news to you as quick as possible, so let's get right into it, starting off with Monster Hunter Rise. So today is a big day for gaming. Several exciting games released today, including It Takes Two, Kaze and the Wild Mask, Balan Wonderworld came out today as well, though I'm not quite sure on that one yet, and then the big one, Monster Hunter Rise. This is a massive release, and after playing it, it really is a good game. I like the art style a lot personally. Capcom did a phenomenal job getting this to run on the Switch with that Resident Evil engine, but most importantly, it's just a fun game. It's about what you would expect from Monster Hunter, though it's a little faster thanks to the extra mobility from the wire bug and your new dog companion. So yeah, it's another good Monster Hunter game, but since reviews went out a few days ago, I have seen several outlets claim it does not have an end yet. Both Fanbyte and Polygon says something very similar in how it just abruptly ends, and it almost seems like there's more to this game that's not there quite yet. It actually sounds like this will probably be fixed through updates for Rise, but it's important that you know this going in. Their first free update, which adds new content like monsters, comes next month in April, and I think that's probably what happened here with the ending of Rise. Now obviously I haven't finished the game myself, but like Monster Hunter World, I would expect some pretty beefy updates and expansions, so while yes, Rise released today, do expect much more content to release throughout the year, making this more of a complete game from beginning to end. Now, I would still recommend a purchase, but if you want to wait for some of those updates to jump in yourself, you can always do that. Moving on though, Metacritic revealed the publishers of the year. Metacritic, of course, is a useful tool in finding games to play as they give weighted average scores to movies, games, and other media platforms, but here today we're not just talking about games, but the publishers themselves. Metacritic revealed the best publisher rankings of 2020. This is something that they do every year, and Sega this year tops the list at number 1 for their newest ranking. This one actually surprised me a little bit. Now, I knew Sega's been putting out some really good games as of late, but when you look at it closely, they really did have a huge year in 2020. Just to name a few games that they put out are Persona 5 Royal, Yakuza on Xbox, 2 Point Hospital, and 13 Sentinels. 13 Sentinels is actually an amazing game if you like story-driven games. Sadly, it does seem to be flying under the radar right now for a lot of people, but definitely check that game out on the PS4 or PS5. Either way, Sega did a phenomenal job in 2020. All of their games combined averaged out to be 81.6%, and 95% of those games were reviewed as good and none were bad. That is quite the year for Sega. I will post a picture here though of the top 20 ranked publishers. Annapurna placed at number 2, and they do tend to release smaller high quality games like Florence as an example. Capcom then placed at number 3. They have made a huge comeback in recent years, so that's pretty cool to see. And then the big 3 platform holders, PlayStation at number 4, Xbox at number 6, and then Nintendo at number 9. Big congrats to all these publishers though. They kept us plenty busy last year as much of us were stuck at home, so thank you to all of these game companies. Next up, Xbox revealed some new controllers as they seem to do every few months. Honestly, I do love this about Xbox because they have some nice looking controllers. I've had to buy several of them over the years because they just look so good, and that's the beauty of what they do. They give you so many options to fit you as a gamer, and now they've given you 2 more options. Electric Volt and Daystrike Camo. Now, Electric Volt will debut at $65, while Daystrike Camo goes for $70. The main difference here in features is that Daystrike Camo has fully texturized bumpers, which is why it goes for an extra $5. So if that's something that you really care about, you can go for that. Now, I will say, I like the texturized grips that Xbox has been incorporating in their newer controllers. It does add an extra layer of comfort, and for that matter, I'm overall very impressed with the new Xbox Series controllers. I know they didn't really change too much with their new controllers, but I love the D-pad on this thing. It's got that nice click to it, and it's great for fighting games. It's actually probably my favorite D-pad and controllers right now, but if you like either of these new controllers, you can go pick them up starting April 27th. Now, with this next topic, fans of Hideo Kojima might have something to look forward to relatively soon. Now, I am a big fan of Kojima. I love the Metal Gear Solid franchise, but it's been interesting to see what he can do beyond the Metal Gear IP. Of course, he's no longer with Konami, and he has his own studio now, Kojima Productions. His first game as an independent studio, he partnered up with Sony to develop Death Stranding, which was a very polarizing game. Some people absolutely loved it while others hated it. And when you play it, you kind of understand why. It can kind of be explained as a walking simulator. Now, if you like slower-paced games, then this game can be absolutely amazing with an intriguing story, amazing cinematography, and visually it looks stunning. Regardless if you like Death Stranding or not though, it sounds like Kojima might reveal his next game soon. This is according to the studio art director Yoji Shinkawa, who says, "Well, yeah, I am doing something for sure, and I could tell you probably that we can announce it quite soon." So there it is. Now the main question is, what are they working on? And I have two different theories here. The obvious one would be a new horror game. There have been a lot of rumors about him working on some kind of horror game, and he's even kind of teased it in the past. There were also reports of a horror manga artist working with him on some kind of project, so there are a lot of hints leading to a horror-esque game from Kojima Studios. I think that would be a great fit as fans absolutely love the PT demo that shocked the world. Ultimately, that ended up being a tease for a new Silent Hills game that sadly got canceled. That's probably one of the most unfortunate canceled games of all time. However, there was also a leak not long ago that a PS5 Death Stranding is in development with an expansion. So I know a lot of people see this quote and immediately think it's some kind of new game, but I do think that there is a possibility that this could end up being a Death Stranding re-release of sorts. And you know what? That would be amazing as well. Death Stranding does need a 60 FPS update at the very least for the PS5. And we do know that Kojima is working on a new game besides just a Death Stranding update. It's just a matter of when that gets announced and not if. But the next game that he announces could just be the PS5 version of Death Stranding with a new expansion, similar to Final Fantasy VII Intergrade. Let's talk about Xbox though, as they had a big event today over on the Twitch gaming channel, both in length as well as announcements. Yes, if you watched this event, it was absurdly long. I mean, it was actually 4+ hours, which is absolutely ridiculous. Now, with that said, they did have some cool games here. I would have preferred it to be much more of a condensed event, though I understand. Twitch allowed several developers to talk about their games, which is, that's a nice thing. I just felt like that they could have limited some of this, but let's just talk about the games. They revealed more than 60 games here, more than 20 of which will launch into Xbox Game Pass day one. Yeah, you heard that right. More than 20 games will launch into Xbox Game Pass. This is just another reason on why Xbox Game Pass is so amazing. I mean, some of these games look really cool, and with that extra exposure that Xbox Game Pass can give them, more people will have a chance to play some of these games that may have otherwise been missed. Now, there's no way I can talk about every one of these games without making this video about an hour long, but here's a list of 20 games coming to Xbox Game Pass. Some of these are really exciting too. I mean, you have Sable, Hello Neighbor 2, Second Extinction, Stalker 2, which is a huge release, Edge of Eternity, and so many more. That is just crazy. Sometimes I can't believe how good Xbox Game Pass is, and then they go and do even more unbelievable things like this. What I want to do with this video though is highlight some of the games that caught my attention today at this event, starting off with Exomecha. I was not expecting this game, but Exomecha blew me away right at the beginning of this event. Graphically, it looks superb. It kind of reminds me of a mix between Titanfall with Crysis. I mean, you have huge mechs walking around with some close and personal combat, the shooting mechanics look fantastic, and just the overall mobility of this game. It's very action-packed. I mean, you even have a grappling hook that you can use to pull you into different locations. That's something that we're seeing with Halo Infinite as well, and even the ground vehicle kind of reminded me of a Warthog. I'm curious if it got some inspiration from Halo. Exomecha, though, is a competitive online multiplayer game, and it's an Xbox console exclusive that will be launching August of this year. Another game here that caught my attention was Omno. Now, this is a 3D platformer, and as you all probably know by now, I do like 3D platformers. I don't think we get enough good 3D platformers anymore, and this one looks interesting. I love the art style and design of the main character. You can see some nice platforming, some puzzles, and it's pretty atmospheric in general. The cool thing about this release, though, is if you're not sold on it right away, this is one of those Xbox Game Pass titles. Yes, you will be able to get Omno day one if you have Xbox Game Pass. They also showed a few JRPGs here. Yeah, I don't think we can say Xbox doesn't get JRPGs anymore. I mean, they still need to improve, but today Edge of Eternity showed up again and will be another Xbox Game Pass game, and a surprise reveal for Astria Ascending. Now, this is one that you need to keep an eye on. Astria Ascending is a traditional turn-based RPG with an almost vanilla-ware art style, and there's some real talent behind this game. You have some Final Fantasy veterans on this team, developers who've worked on Nier Automata and also Bravely Default. The one I'm most excited about, though, is Kojima, which is the story writer. He worked on Final Fantasy X and Final Fantasy VII Remake. Both of those games were exceptional, so yeah, there's some potential with Astria Ascending, and guess what? It's coming to Xbox Game Pass day one. By this point, you're probably seeing a theme here. And speaking of RPGs, Lost Eidolons was revealed. This is a tactical turn-based RPG similar to games like Fire Emblem. The visuals here are striking with more of a realistic art style. The character models and armor look exceptional in this game. I think just from a visual perspective, Lost Eidolons is very impressive. It's almost hard to believe this is an independent game, and hopefully the gameplay is just as good as what it looks. At the very least, I'm intrigued to see how Lost Eidolons turns out. I think one of the best games here, though, was Loot River. Just wow, Loot River's gameplay looks insane. Loot River is a roguelike action game coming to Xbox and PC, and it's like this beautiful mix of difficult combat sections with puzzle elements thrown in. You can see how the main character has to use platforms to move back and forth to combat enemies or flat out get around them. When I first saw this, I was like, that is an absolute genius idea. I've not seen something like this before, and I really want to try this one out for myself. Now I'm just kind of waiting for that release date. Sable is another great looking game that's yet again coming to Xbox Game Pass. This is a very artistic game, as you can see. Now, we have seen this game in the past, but if you somehow missed it before, you can at least see some quick footage here, and that's kind of why we're showing it today. I mean, it just looks too good to ignore. Another interesting game coming to Game Pass is The Wild at Heart that looks very similar to Don't Starve, or at least in terms of visuals, but it has some Pikmin elements to it. Now, Pikmin is a very unique game made by Nintendo where you use these little creatures to do different tasks, and you kind of see that here with The Wild at Heart. I like Pikmin myself, so I'm happy to see an independent developer try to take that mechanic and use it in a different way. I'll be very interested to see what they can do with that. So that one definitely has my attention, especially being in Xbox Game Pass day one. And real quick, one last game that we're going to talk about is Art of Rally. And yes, it's another Game Pass game. This is a simplistic polygon racer, and it's actually been available on Steam for quite a while. Now, I've not played this game personally, but it has a 95% approval rate on Steam, and people claim this is a technical top-down driving game. It apparently has a high skill ceiling, and I personally like the art style here. You don't usually see this low polygon look, but I think it's oddly very pleasing. At the very least, I'll check this game out. But yeah, there were a lot of good games shown here at this Xbox event. I think some of it was a little overshadowed by the length of some of the interviews, but wow, if you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, you have a lot to look forward to. If I missed any game you're looking forward to, though, that they showed today, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll talk about it in the next episode of News Dose. Before we go, though, let's take a look at the poll of the day. Yesterday, we talked about a PlayStation patent that might signify that they're looking to expand on PS5 backwards compatibility. And it had me wondering, if PlayStation allows you to buy legacy titles through the cloud, would you be willing to buy games like that? I know not everybody is necessarily sold on cloud gaming just yet, and 50% of you said that no, you would not buy backwards compatible cloud games on the PS5. 38% of you said yes though, and that's a pretty good number. Really, I can understand both sides of this debate. On one side, some of you don't like the idea of rebuying games you already own, and there are some concerns with data caps and cloud gaming. And you know, if they do expand on backwards compatibility, I would prefer them to do it natively, but with the PS3 in specific, that might be easier said than done. That cell processor is still such a pain all of these years later, and it's just hard to emulate PS3 games. That's where cloud gaming could help keep these games alive for people who haven't played them already. And that's what I'm kind of looking at, but I completely understand both sides of this debate. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.